All right, it is 5:30 and we'll go ahead and call the Tipton Community School Board Work Session to order for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. I think first up is Stephen, so I'm glad that he is ready.
Got some awesome stuff to talk about.
Lots of exciting stuff. Well, hi everybody. I think just about everybody I've had a chance to meet at some point in time. Beth and I, of course. Hi, my name is Stephen Gingrich, Director of Technology. It's good to meet you. Well, Dr. Glaze asked me to kind of talk a little bit about where we're at with one-to-one technology right now and kind of where we're seeing things going from here, kind of picking things up with next year. And of course, the technology guy has a tech glitch. That was cool. Okay, so right now, just as kind of an overview of where we're at. Grades 9 through 12, starting last year, we did Chromebooks at that level in place of MacBooks. So far, that program has been successful overall. As far as breakages, things of that nature goes, it's been dramatically less than what it was. Our breakage cost has been a lot lower too. I bragged on it a couple of times here recently. As far as displays, which is probably the greatest breakage that we see. Beginning of the school year, we were able to buy a whole crate of displays for the cost of one MacBook display replacement. And the display replacements are actually done in-house at the high school. So our tech, Kyle, is usually who does that. And he has, at the moment, Rowan Maddox, a student helper, who comes alongside and helps with some of those screen replacements also. So then at the 6 through 8, so that would be middle school level, we have an iPad with a keyboard, 2 through 5. That's actually, 2 through 5, iPad with a keyboard. And then K through 1 is an iPad without a keyboard. That's kind of the way that everything is kind of layered in at the moment. Those K through 1 iPads, as we'll see here in a little bit, are older than the ones that have the keyboards. So the way this is kind of envisioned and laid out and designed was for the Chromebooks to have a 4-year lifespan. By the time they get down to the end of those 4 years, the vast majority of them are not in awesome condition, just how they usually go. Usually get 4 years out of them, and then you don't have a full fleet left over. You'll have some that are left in reasonable condition that can be used as loaners going forward for the next group. And then iPads, we usually slate about 4 or 5 years on a lifespan for those. That said, most of what we're encountering problems with at the moment are the grades through 3 through 8. So what we're running into in particular, a few different aspects: repairs, equipment reliability, and some manageability and compatibility issues. So the iPad repairs in particular, they're actually handled by AppleCare at the moment. So when we buy the iPads before the deployment, we purchase them with AppleCare. There's a little bit of an extra cost that comes along with that. And but that makes it so that when we have repairs, instead of having to try to complete them in-house, we send them to Apple. And one of the reasons that we don't perform those repairs in-house is that to get inside of an iPad, and I don't know if you've ever seen anybody try to do like a phone screen replacement or anything of that nature. Most everything these days, when it comes to that form factor, they're glued shut. The screen is glued to the body, and that makes it really difficult to get in. So most of the time what they would do is they would have a heat gun, heat up the screen, remove the screen, and that would allow you to get access to the internal systems. Problem is, components, they're difficult to repair because of physical size and space that's inside of the iPads. They're really tiny components and really tight, confined spaces. That makes it not awesome. And then even after you get repairs and everything done, you have to reattach that screen. And reattaching the screens with the adhesive, the thing about that is that you have to have special equipment that heats up the surface of the iPad to a certain heat and the screen to a certain temperature. Otherwise, the screen replacement fails, and then you have more problems, right? So components are also difficult to acquire for these due to a lot of Apple's restrictions. This has got better in recent years. Apple has some DIY programs nowadays where you can get batteries or you can get screens, OEM, so on and so forth, but it's 1 or 2 at a time, and there again, we still run into the repair issues. Equipment reliability, we've also had some troubles with that too. So grades 3 through 8, they really rely heavily on that use of a physical keyboard that right now is housed inside of a case that's attached to the iPad. And they do that for completion of assignments, reports, research, things of that nature. And that's great for tactile typing, for learning how to touch type and kind of beginning that process at a little bit of a younger age. Problem is that the failure rates on these cases have been pretty high. Out of the entire deployment, I believe we did the math here just the other day, and we're at about 25% to 30% that we've had to replace of just the cases. And it's not been out of a matter of wear and tear or abuse of the cases themselves. It's just been through failure rates. Now, thankfully, we've been able to work with Logitech to get them replaced. But over time, that's just what we run into with those. Some manageability issues. So the whole thing behind iPads is that they were consumer devices first. When they first came out, they weren't necessarily envisioned or designed for the enterprise. They were designed for an individual to go purchase one and use it at home. However, as money always works, they decided to figure out ways to make it work inside of the enterprise environment. And that's where MDMs come along. Here at Tipton, we use FileWave. It's just a third-party software that we use to manage all the iPads. It allows us to place restrictions on them, allows us to place filtering on them, to be able to track locations, all of that kind of stuff that helps with making a fleet of iPads as large as what we have manageable. The thing about iPads is that they're Apple ecosystem first. So if you have an iPhone or anything of that nature, you're probably familiar with the occasional thing that you'll run into that, oh, I have to use the Apple app for this, right? Well, we run into the same thing with iPads. Here at Tipton, of course, we use Google products for the vast majority of things, especially at that 3 through 8 level. Google Docs, Google Classroom, all that kind of stuff. And while there are apps that can be downloaded and installed on the iPads to make those things work, they don't work as best as what they could if it were on different hardware. Apple wants you to use their products, right? So that leads to us having workarounds and different little quirks and things that you have to do in order to make Google Classroom or Google Docs work, for example. So what's the proposed idea for working around all of this? A little bit of a restructuring. So the idea would be that the grades 3 through 8, we would be moving to Chromebooks. And that would allow for the keyboards to be built in. That would allow for direct integration with Google Apps and Google Services. Instead of trying to shoehorn Google Apps and Services onto an iPad, we're using first-party hardware, right? So it would still be the same 4-year lifespan of a Chromebook. In particular, as you can see there from the listing, the 3 through 8 would be the Dell 3120s, which is the model that came out last year of the same thing that we have at the high school, just newer, faster, so on and so forth. 4 years. After the 4 years is up, we would be using what's left over as loaner devices, just like it's set up at the high school. And then the iPads would be kept for grades K through 2, and that would be just to best accommodate tech usage at those levels. It's a lot of educational games, activities, apps specifically that they use, a lot of that kind of stuff with tactile touch, so on and so forth. K through 2, something like an iPad does work really well for those. They don't rely on Google Docs and such as heavily as they do at that 3 through 8. Plans for old iPads. So that K through 1, the 2020 and 2021 iPads, they'll be out of lease after this year. And so they will be sold for recycling. We usually get some funds back for that, and it helps pay for a new fleet, so on and so forth. How much that is, it varies depending on the age of the device and the kind of condition that it's in by the time it's all said and done. So we'll see what comes of that. Staff that have older iPads, which we do have several that are hanging around that have those 2020 or 2021 models, they would be upgraded to the 22 and 22 models. And the remaining 2022 iPads that aren't being utilized for the K through 2 level, they would serve the role that we currently use those 2020 and 2021 models for. So spares, loaners, the occasional thing that comes up where we need to record a football game or we need to, all kinds of different stuff like that. Random odds and ends that pop up from every now and again. I think we have some that are running door system stuff at the moment. Lots of things like that. We've presented it before, but just to give everybody a recap on what a Chromebook is, what it does, what it looks like, the advantages of something like a Chromebook over an iPad, kind of how I talked about with the iPads being designed for consumer use first and foremost. The Chromebook is the opposite of that. It was designed around a platform that's built with education in mind and built with the enterprise in mind. Things are cloud-based instead of being housed directly on the device. The management is cloud-based instead of being something where we have to have a third-party software to integrate with that. Everything is handled on Google's end, and it works really well. It's the management side of it, the deployment side of it, all of that has been really fluid at the high school. So the Chromebook being Chrome OS being a Google product anyways, directly integrated with Google Docs, Google Drive, Slides, Google Classroom. So you don't have those compatibility issues, the workarounds that you have to do. Everything's integrated. As far as the things that we use here at TCSC, most of everything is web-based. That's a shift that's happened over the last handful of years, especially after 2020 with COVID and all of that. Things being web-based has been a huge push, and the vast majority of everything that we do here, especially those 3 through 8, 3 and higher, is web-based. And Chromebooks, they're widely adopted in K-12 1-to-1. As I mentioned, we already use it at the high school, but the good thing about that is that we're not alone. There's a whole community of people out there that use them for their 1-to-1 devices with students. From a hardware perspective, instead of being glass and metal, they are rubberized edges. They're heavy-duty plastic. They're tested to military specifications. The school that I was at before I was here, we actually tested Chromebooks. I was involved, right before I left, I was involved in the deployment of Chromebooks at the high school level. And we had a Dell rep that came in and presented their devices to us, these education geared devices that were just going to be coming on the market. And one of the funniest things, I thought at least, was the liquid resistant keyboard. He was pitching it to us and we were like, sure, like it's not really liquid resistant, right? Like there's no way. Well, we talked to the rep into letting us actually pour a whole cup of water, like right there in our office, onto the keyboard. And sure enough, like we picked it up, shook it off, dried it off, and it was fine. Now, that doesn't say that they're waterproof or anything of that nature, but spills, things of that nature on the keyboard, it's liquid resistant. And they're a lot more easily repaired. It's instead of adhesives and glues and things of that nature, screws and bolts and fasteners and things of that nature that make it easier to get into the device, a lot more room to work on them. And so because we can do the repairs in-house, that helps cut down on repair costs. So you can kind of see the figures there in front of you. For the 3120s in particular, which is the model, the Dell discontinued the 3110s, so we wouldn't be able to get those for this deployment. However, because of them discontinuing that, we were able to negotiate them down around $40 per unit, which is, I was pretty happy with. I thought that I was glad that they were able to work with us on that. The licensing for those, in order to facilitate the management of the devices, it's a $32 fee per device. But the advantage is that it's a one-time purchase. Instead of it being a recurring year-over-year cost, per device, you only have to buy that license one time. And then it's good for the lifetime of the device. So at 675 units, that would accommodate fluctuations in enrollment. It would allow us to be able to have spares on hand, so on and so forth. And to kind of compare that with what we've done in the past, iPads with keyboards, for the brand new model that a week ago was just announced and is now on the market, I think it's in pre-order phase at the moment, $329 per unit. And the older models, like the ones that we have now, are discontinued. They also don't have headphone jacks. They're USB-C, so there would, in our case, if we were to move to those in the future, which we eventually will for the lower grades, there will be charger replacements that will have to be involved, and we'll have to figure out different strategy for headphone usage and things of that nature. The FileWave MDM license, though, for iPad is approximately $5 a year. It fluctuates a little bit, just like everything in the market does. But it's, for several years, it's been $5 per year per device. But that is not a one-time purchase, that's per year. So over the course of the device, that cost, of course, is more than that. And AppleCare hasn't, the cost for that hasn't even been announced yet, as far as what that looks like for the enterprise, for this specific model. So I don't have those numbers as far as what AppleCare cost would be, but it would be definitely more than what's here. Thoughts, questions? Teachers would be staying at MacBooks. Yep. And we are still continuing to roll out the M1 MacBooks that are from the previous deployment. We're doing that a little bit at a time and getting those out and getting those slated and ready for recycle over this summer. So.
Talking to Brooke, I mean, one of the reasons why we did this is because we were losing money usually on MacBooks and iPads. So literally, next year we'll still be losing a little bit of money because we're still paying off the one lease. Like after that, it's totally funded, which was really what we were trying to do in the first place. Is trying to create a program that was self-sustaining, that, and what we're charging and the rental fee covers the cost of the device over the course of a 4-year period. And this just works out a lot better than Chromebook on the financial side.
Don't we budget for our devices?
It's typically around, the way it's set up in our budget, I think it's like 50,000 per building. So it's around 150,000 a year. What we budget out for that. But it's approximately 50,000. It might be 60 in some. It might be more like 60.
And you said something about rental fees. Are you talking about what we submit?
And for a little bit of further clarification, those 2022 models, we would have 2 more school years, so 25 to 26 and 26 to 27, before we would have to purchase more devices. So those iPads have another couple of years to go. Any other questions on that one? If not, I'll move on to the fun, wild world of copiers. Okay, so this one's been a long time coming. Been working with Rico for quite a while on a copier proposal. So to give you an idea of what our current fleet looks like, we have an armada of of copiers. The high school has 11 copiers itself. Middle school houses 7. Elementary is 7. Corporation office is 1, and then we have one at the transportation facility that is no longer on lease. It's out of maintenance, no longer on lease, but I'll talk a little bit more about that once we get there. So aging equipment. Many of our current fleet are aging. They're reaching the end of their lease. Some of them, the vast majority, are already off of the lease and have been paid off for several years. But the problem is that along with that age comes higher maintenance. We've noticed a large uptrend in maintenance, service calls, so on and so forth. Teacher frustration, staff frustrations. We've seen an uptick in that, and of course, along with that comes a downward trend of printing performance and accessibility and issues that come along with that. Along with all of that, our technology climate has changed a lot since this current deployment was put in place. Actually, the current lease was kind of drawn up before my tenure here at Tipton. So since then, I kind of came in on the back end of it. However, since that time frame, we've launched one-to-one at the elementary school. We've done a full wireless overhaul at the elementary school to accommodate that one-to-one deployment. And out of all of that comes a greater reliance on digital tools and platforms and usage of iPads, so on and so forth, and devices at the elementary school. And all in all, it makes us less reliant on print. Doesn't mean that we don't use it at all, but it just takes on a different role than what it used to. So, taking all of that into account, what was the goal of the project? And all that was fleet optimization. The whole idea was to get an increase in operational efficiency and to make it more financially viable. And through all of this, we were looking for a reduction in overall number of copiers to help cut down on maintenance, help cut down on the lease cost per machine, a replacement of the remaining copiers that are being replaced, updating those with newer machines, and adjusting what kind of equipment is being used in certain areas to help with using the correct equipment for the appropriate capacities. We had some in the current deployment where some of the copiers that were designed for only a handful of copies were being used as these giant workhorses for massive amounts of copies, and that was leading to some of the maintenance issues and some of the repair problems. So adjusting that would help with accommodating those goals. So as part of this, we completed an on-site walkthrough with Ricoh. We actually had them come out on site. We walked through with them. We would go from this section of the building and figure out how many steps it is to a copier. Where's the nearest copier? Let's see how many steps it is. And so from all of that, we were able to kind of draw up a more optimized layout. So the whole idea was, how far away is this machine? How many copies are done on this machine? What does the maintenance history of this machine look like? All that kind of craziness. So, overview of changes. So at the high school, the main office would be replaced with a color machine. And that sort of comes out of some of these optimizations and stuff that we've made, where it'll help to be able to accommodate having color machines in the offices. The TAA, the Tipton Academy copier, would be upgraded. Teachers Lounge, Media Center. The band room actually has one in it that they use to make paper copies of sheet music and things of that nature, but it's kind of oversized for what they use it for. How the print, based on the print volume numbers, so on and so forth, it's kind of oversized. So actually, it would be a reduction of print volume in that area. However, on the flip side, the Student Success Center would have a larger machine put in that place due to the print volume that would be in that location. Some of that also comes from the library upstairs being moved downstairs. We will see a larger influx in the Student Success Center on the second floor. So there's 5 copiers there on the right-hand side that would be removed from the high school as a result. Some of those are actually currently in storage. They're not even being used. So 2 of the 5. At the middle school, the main office is currently a color copier. We would be keeping that in place. Teachers Lounge would be updated in the science area. That gives us 3 copiers kind of down the length of the middle school. And that would be the removal of 4 copiers, 2 of which are currently in storage. One of which is sitting in the middle school tech office upstairs and might as well be in storage. At the elementary school, again, the office would have a color copier. We'd be upgrading the teacher workroom that's on the west side. The K1 pod, the 3-4 pod, those would be replaced and upgraded, and the teacher's lounge would all be upgraded. And that would mean the removal of 2 copiers. Other areas, the corporation office is currently color, and we'd be replacing it with color. And the transportation copier that is no longer under lease has a super low print volume on it. The Ricoh reps actually recommended that we not replace it for now, and when it breaks, wait until it breaks down and replace it at that time, because the print volume is so low on it, and it's already out of lease, that the maintenance should be very low, that transportation copier. Could be. Yeah, it could be. The only thing is that the copier that's out there, some of what they use it for, my understanding, at least what they used to use it for, was to print large format maps and things of that nature. The smaller copiers don't print that large. So the copier that's out there, that's why it's that particular copier. So just kind of further details on this, as far as the projected timeline for all of it, it would be something that we would complete over the summer. It would include the centralized management software that we use to allow for print, copy, reporting, so on and so forth. The Ricoh, they actually work with a third-party company to be able to recycle the copiers. They actually come and the company would come and pick them up, haul them off for us. Because otherwise, copiers are really difficult to get rid of. Nobody wants them. They're boat anchors. But they would offer us $4,400. That's for the whole fleet. But they would offer us $4,400 to come and pick them up and haul them off for us. All of the copiers that would be replacing the machines that are here, they're actually color capable. They have the color function, the hardware built in, but they would be locked out. In order to be compliant with the contract, they would be locked out by Ricoh from those color functions. And that actually allowed for us to be able to cut down on some of the pricing along the lines. So it's a 60-month lease. And then after the duration of that lease, we would have the option to purchase the copiers for $1, which is more or less what we did with the previous deployment, which is how we've been out of lease for a handful of years with those. And that also includes the same service packages and things that we have now, full service that includes parts, labor, toner, staples. The only thing that's kind of left off of that list there is paper, which just like it is now, with the bill for paper. So, thoughts, concerns, questions?
Can you tell me a little bit more about Ricoh? Like, did we look at different companies, or are they kind of standard for education, or?
Yeah,
Why them?
Yeah, it's pretty standard. We've used Sharp in the past, and they were okay. Ricoh, for one, driver compatibility with the MacBooks is really good for those. We've also, just out of having a handful of years of experience with those, that's part of why we were able to get decent pricing on machines, is having a history with Ricoh.
So they are the ones that would service it, that
That is
home
correct.
manufacturer.
Yeah, that is correct. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. All right. Next on our agenda is to review our board agenda for the 6:30 meeting. And we do have the board policy first reading this evening. Batches 1, 2, and 3 were included in our packet. And so I guess questions regarding that, we want to have discussion on that before moving into the regular meeting. I had picked up I've got a spreadsheet started on where I picked up trustee instead of school board. So I'm not done with that. So I have not done all my homework. I did not read all 3 batches yet. But I do have a list started where a couple of those have squeaked through. So, but I did not have any questions. I did feel that the CCH policies were much more succinct and easy for non-school people to understand and kind of make sense of. So, but did anybody have any questions on that first read through or? Okay.
It's gonna be so nice. When
Yes.
you see all the policies it combines, you think, wow.
That
Yep.
saves time.
Easy
Well,
to
and
find
it's the
things.
duplication, like the deduplication of the previous policies where we actually had conflicting policies and now it's down to, a single thing. It's really, really good. So, but Beth, you were good on the first read through. Questions?
The only question I had was on the non-discrimination and anti-harassment. I didn't know what genetic information is referring to and why we would need that in there.
What paragraph are you in?
First paragraph. A100, non-discrimination and anti-harassment.
Oh, I found it.
I'm not exactly sure why that's in there. But definitely can talk to Georgia about it and see if there's a reason why
Okay.
that's in there. I don't know why it would be, and I'm sorry we missed it, but, yeah, I'll ask Julia about it.
Okay.
Just to make sure there's not something somewhere and
Yeah.
we need to have that. Just to cover us, but I can't imagine that we don't keep that as far as our record, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good question.
Great question. All right. Anybody else? Anything on that? Okay, very good. I think the next thing on our agenda is the advisory committees. We may have a conflict
Yes.
for Monday the 17th, so
Just stay tuned, we'll reschedule that one. I was gonna, we'll just do it next week. I'm like, oh, we're on spring break.
yeah, that's
So,
been the problem.
we'll probably look at it maybe the first week in April. I'll send out an email to everybody on that committee and just say, hey, does that work? And then I'll try to get it done.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions or comments on advisory committees that are coming up and everybody knows where they're supposed to be when? All right. Tammy, I'm looking at you. You can't go to all of them. You just got to go to the ones that are assigned to you.
I did want to say our last one was really great. I thought we covered a lot of
Yeah.
topics and really a very good meeting. And so one of the things that came out of that is looking at a platform to essentially text. So a teacher would be able to text with their parent or with the student. It's all in a secure place. It's not, there's always that fear, and we never, ever, ever, ever want teachers to share their cell phone number and where they're texting back and forth with kids. So looking at a couple of different vendors and just kind of getting some pricing on those. And I just think it's probably something that we should consider just to kind of button up more of our security and everything else. Just something to consider. So we may be able to bring something to you in April or in May about cost and what those different kinds of apps would offer us. I think one is Livewire or something like that. What was the one? Parent Square was the other. What was the other? Talking. Yeah. So, but anyway, they're just specifically apps. And again, just a great way. We're always trying to strive for two-way communication. And that's one of our goals in our strategic plan. And this would give us a lot better ability.
And then protects with FERPA and
Yes.
that kind of thing in case
Absolutely.
something gets out in the ether.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
That is good. All right. That is advisory committees. Next, we move to comments, and I believe we had one. Is she here?
Go.
I don't see her. Is she here? Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to address the strategic goal and the improved communication one. The information given to board members in their packets prior to a meeting provides context, and sharing that does improve transparency and public access to that information before discussing specific agenda items that require a vote. And I know I've talked about this at other meetings about it, but since then I've kind of been digging into it and doing some research. And I came across an article from WRTV back in June of 2023 that addressed this issue because in West Lafayette Community School Corporation, 2022, a school board member actually filed a formal complaint alleging that they had violated the Indiana Access Public Records Act regarding this issue. And the entire purpose of the board packet is to provide members with a succinct, finite set of documents to review and to consider during an open public meeting for approval. And once the packet is going to the school board members, it becomes public information as was cited in the decision. The school board member's concern when she filed this was that nobody knew what was going on if you were in the audience. And the school board packet has all the relevant documents associated with the agenda items, so the public should have access to the packets before and after the meeting. And her view was, as a school board member, she was representing the community, and she can't represent the community if the community doesn't know what's going on and can't provide input. So she pushed for transparency, including the releasing of the school board meeting packets before and after the meetings. And per the decision from the public access counselor in the spring of 2023, the board agreed and they voted 7-0 to change their practice. And now the public can review the school board meeting packets before and after the meeting. And the public can see for themselves and see what the board was talking about and give input. And WRTV followed up with the Indiana School Board Association, but they don't track which school districts provide packets to the public or not, which begs the question, why isn't that information disseminated? Or maybe people just don't want to do it. So we can do it per this decision. So collectively, I know as a board, you guys get to decide rules and how you govern the meeting and things like that, and it falls under your purview. And we used to supply supplemental documents at the door prior to all the website creation, so the public could have input to their elected officials who vote yay or nay. And we have a strategic goal to improve communication, and this change would greatly assist towards this goal. And the best part, there's no grant, no bond, and it's free. So why can't and separately on another issue, I'm trying to understand why our communication regarding board meeting times and dates can't be communicated on the same texting platform that we use for reminders such as ordering yearbooks and the like.
Thank you, Laura.
Made it. No, you didn't.
That was
Thank
impressive.
you.
Thank you very much. All right. I believe the next thing we have is adjournment.
That's it.
So with no objection, we'll adjourn the meeting for 22 minutes and pick back up at 6:30. Thank you all.
I'm gonna head down to swim real quick.
Okay. Good evening. We're going to call to order the March 11th Tifton Community School Corporation School Board meeting. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and the vision statement. I've asked Beth to lead that this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Growing and empowered, future-ready students who are prepared for a lifetime of opportunity and success.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Before we get to the Blue Future Awards, we do have the YOs here to do a special performance of their award-winning song. So if they would like to come up first, that would be great.
Poor man Lazarus, stick your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's tormented in the flame. He had to eat crumbs from the rich table. Stick your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's I'm tormented in the flame. I'm tormented in the flame. I'm tormented in the flame. Stick your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's I'm tormented in the flame. Rich time he's so well. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's tormented in the flame. And when he died, he went straight to hell. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's tormented in the flame. I'm tormented in the flame. I'm tormented in the flame. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, that's tormented in the flame. I love to shout, I love to sing. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, cause I'm tormented in the flame. I love to praise my King. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, cause I'm tormented in the flame. I'm tormented in the flame. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, I'm tormented in the flame. Dip your finger in the water, come in, pull my tongue, I'm tormented in the flame.
Freeze. Right.
I should have the full. So the first, my series of Blue Future Awards, is, this group with their ensemble, and obviously they deserve that, you can see that from the performance. They received a gold at, the district, for this performance, and then they advanced to the state, ensemble got a gold with distinction. So first Blue Futures for this group. The original. That's what I was going to say. And so we also have, some performers that went and, competed and also needed to get a gold, at the contest and then advanced to state and also received gold, with distinction. Claire Orchid. And then I have a few more Blue Feature awards. I'd like to call Kim Warner to the front, and I don't know if Kathy is here or not. I'm still gonna talk about her, but. So I wanted to present Mrs. Warner with a Blue Feature Award just for kind of everything she does and has done for Tipton High School. And how many years at Tipton High School? 28 years. She retired last year, but then came back to us, finished out her last group of German students, but then has also moved into the treasurer's role. And, you know, she could roll in and do that job well, but she always does things another step, a step above. You know, she's still organizing things like a share table at lunch, which is just, you know, she sees a gap and it's like, we have all these fruits and vegetables and things that are going to waste. What can I do to get that done? And, you know, when we were told like things had to be wrapped and done a certain way, you know, mere mortals would have said, you know what, it's just too hard, let's let those things go. But, you know, Kim every day sits at her desk with wraps the apples and changes out the ice for the juices to hand out at the end of the day. So she's organized things like that. Just, and you can ask Mr. Jaworski about all of the curricular materials things that you guys are seeing as well. Kim isn't one to sit back and just let that kind of stuff float by. She's in it, she's asking questions, she's making sure that we're all doing everything that we're supposed to. And again, it's just another example of her going above and beyond to help us at junior year at Tipton High School. I tricked her into being junior class sponsor, which meant a new concession area, which meant not just stepping in and doing what most junior class sponsors do. She had to organize moving all the things over and just, again, going above and beyond and doing what's best for kids. And she's just always there. I mean, she's always doing things that are good for our building. So very deserving of the Blue Feature Award, Mrs. Warner. Talk as long as she's not here, and she really didn't even want me to give her one anyway. But Kathy Summers, if you're not familiar with Kathy, she's our first shift custodian. I wanted to recognize her this month because we've been going through a lot of furniture moving, construction stuff, and we've asked a lot of her. She's always there. She's always doing the things that we need her to. Again, above and beyond what she has to. Kathy's always available and doing really well for the high school. So I do have this for her. She told me not to even say her name at the meeting, but I told her I would. Sure, but this is for Kathy Summers. Then I need my wrestlers. Great, I do. So, I think that's a wrestler. I do feel like we've talked about wrestling a lot. Yeah. But it was another good season for these guys. They had sectionals in Elwood, and Will Wolfer, who's not here, he finished first overall in the 175-pound weight class. Joseph Klauser finished second at the Elwood sectional in the 126-pound weight class, and then Braden Height finished fourth in the 215-pound weight class, which then allowed him to advance to regionals, which was at Pendleton Heights. Will Wolford again finished first in his weight class. Joe finished fourth and Braden finished fourth, which then allowed them to advance to semi-state. So these guys, again, another tremendous season. They've advanced as individuals, and Braden's only a 10th grader, Joe's an 11th grader, so we get another whole year, and then 2 with Braden, they can do. So Joseph Klauser and Braden Height, and then we'll have to imagine that Will Walker.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Andrew's gonna go.
I'll just finish out the high school.
Sounds good. Not it. Not it.
Talking in microphone. One parent is watching, so I want to make sure you can hear me. I would like to call up Dallas Capshaw, Calvin Condict, Cole Hussey, and Jack Roach. And if Coach Toll wants to come up as well, you're welcome to. So we have Calvin, Dallas, and this is Cole. They are seniors on the football team. And we have Jack Roach, who's a junior. And a few weeks ago, at the end of February, they were honored for their hard work on and off the field and received some awards that I would like to recognize. I'm gonna start with Jack first, and I'll tell you what the award is and kind of describe what it is, because when I read, I didn't have any idea what they meant, and I think it's important to kind of let everyone know what they accomplished. So Jack, being a junior, he was acknowledged as a junior All-State. This award is given to the top junior football players in the state. These players are chosen based on their performance throughout the season and selected by the Indiana Football Coaches Association. So Jack was actually chosen from and nominated through opposing team coaches, which is quite an honor to be recognized from opposing teams. So congratulations, Jack. I'm sure we'll see you next year for getting an award as a senior. Okay, next I'm going to talk about Dallas Capshaw, Cole Hussey, and Calvin Condict. They received the awards for being Region 5 All-Stars. Indiana is broken down into 10 regions. Regions 1 through 5 make up the North, and regions 6 through 10 make up the South. Tipton is in Region 5. There are 33 schools in this region. Coaches from Region 5 get together and nominate their top players. Then opposing coaches then vote and pick players in order to put together a football team with every position filled. Calvin was chosen as running back to represent Region 5. Cole was linebacker, and Dallas was nominated for defense at large. So what that means, being voted as a Region 5 All-Star gives these three the opportunity to be chosen by members of the Indiana Football Coaches Association to play in the North-South All-Star game. So good luck to them. That vote will be decided at a later date. So we're excited and hope you get a chance to play in that game. Get these, and I have one more after that. Cole Hussey. I also want to recognize Dallas and Calvin. They also received Academic All-State. In order to earn this award, students must maintain a 3.4 GPA, must play in at least 70% of the games, and be nominated by a coach, and they were nominated by Coach Toll. So if I mess up anything, Aaron, please feel free to correct me, but we wanted to recognize the students for their accomplishments on and off the field. And Jack, I'm sure you have a bright future next year as a senior, and the other three heading off to college or continuing education. Good luck.
From the middle school, Mrs. Diane Mass, Mrs. Esther Miller, and Mrs. Misty Henry to come up and join me. These three teachers are representing a group of 8 teachers that I want to kind of chat about. 5 of them could not be here, either because of kids or because they're running plays or whatever it might be, but they're going to go ahead and represent it. The reason that they are up here is because these are 3 of our 8 Tipton Middle School acceleration period teachers. And for those of you guys who don't know what acceleration periods are, in the 22-23 school year, we noticed at the middle school that we had a large number of kids who, for whatever reason, whether it was COVID or just academic struggles, just were really kind of further behind than a lot of their peers. And we said, we got to figure out something to do with kids, some way that we can, at the time, sort of intervene, but we decided to brand shift over to accelerate, which I think you all agree is a better word. What we realized is that we had this homeroom time in the morning. Let's go ahead and see if we can use something about that time to make it happen. We did that in 22-23. Mrs. Mass, I suppose, was part of that process through most of it, although Mrs. Henry and Mr. Miller joined us through that. What's been really cool about it is that every single year we look at the iReady diagnostic at the end of the winter, at the end of the spring, as we're starting in the fall. That's kind of our benchmark, and we say, are our kids growing? Is this working? What do we need to do? How do we need to tweak it? It's essentially another prep on top of the other preps that teachers have that they need to plan, but I don't know if I've ever heard a single complaint from anyone about it. It's just kind of everyone stepping up and saying, what can we do to help meet the gaps that some of our students might have? And actually, it's been such a positive thing that even our special education department said this year, hey, we have some kids who not just are, maybe not quite at grade level, but kind of really far below grade level. And they just stepped in and said, we meet those kids. And I just want to share a couple of data things that came from it. Almost every single grade, it's happening in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade in both math and English. Almost every single grade showed double-digit growth over the general education population, showing that these are really working, really having a success. There is one notable exception, and that's Mrs. Henry, but that's only because all of her kids grew so dramatically that, in fact, the acceleration periods were as successful as the general education stuff. You were nervous there for a second. But also, Mrs. Chevrolet, who did the math one this past semester, every single one of her kids grew beyond the rest of their peers in the acceleration period that she did. Actually, just thanks to the hard work that they do. I know that it's not thankful work, it's thankless work, but it's work that they do to smile for the kids. And so I want to say thank you to them. Round of applause for all them guys. Thank you, guys. And just in case I didn't say them, because I don't think I did, Mrs. Henry represents 6th grade math. Mrs. Math represents 8th grade math. We've also got Jessica Lyday, who's representing 7th grade math. Mrs. Miller is 8th grade English. We've also got 7th grade English with Mrs. Neely, 6th grade English with Mrs. Byers, and then I mentioned Mrs. Chevrolet and Mrs. Smells are also done. So they'll be getting their awards tomorrow. So thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Where's your hat?
Left it. I was really worried about it, and I just left it off. So this month the elementary is going to recognize our pre-kindergarten, pre-K team. We have 4 members of our pre-K team that are there every single day. There are many people that come in and out of pre-K, including OT, PT, special education. Mr. Stolson. Yes.
All kinds of friends that come.
So they come in and out, but this year we have kind of overhauled our pre-K program. And that's the first year for this. And the reason that we did that is that we really felt that we needed a pre-K classroom that was really focused on developmental needs. And so we kind of restructured that last year, and it has gone really, really well. And it's because of the 4 people that are here tonight that we're going to recognize. So first of all, our developmental needs teacher is Steve Dolan. Got a haircut just for tonight. The paraeducator that is in that classroom is Sarah Capper. Sarah also has a marketing degree, so any marketing needs you have. Our regular pre-K teacher is Elvie Nasaris. And our pre-K paraeducator is Della Denham.
I want to thank all of you for your hard work. We appreciate you making Industry Level a positive school.
And just so you guys know too, our pre-K throughout the week, we have 20 kids that come in for general ed pre-K, and then our developmental needs pre-K can vary from 2 to 5 at any time, just based on their IEP. So, and we have 11 already signed up for our pre-K next year, so our pre-registered.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you to everybody and congratulations to our Blue Future Award winners. If you are here in the audience with a Blue Future Award winner, and you're free to leave unless you're dying to learn more about Chromebook leases and copier leases. So, but if this would be a good time for you to take off before you get sucked into the inner workings of the meeting. So, thank you and congratulations. All right. Next on the agenda is Tell Me Something Good. This is time where we take just as a board to see if we recognize something out in the school or in the community with the students that we want to make mention of. So anybody want to lead us off? You could go. There you go.
I was just going to say this tonight. When we started the branding and marketing committee, one of our main goals was to showcase all the talents and successes that happen every day in Tipton. And I think we've done a really good job of that in the last 4+ years. And just this tonight, all the kids that were honored and acknowledged, I think is really special. So I'm glad that we continue to do this every month.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
I'll speak about it more next month in Blue Future Awards. But if you haven't seen our middle school swim team, you have one more opportunity tomorrow night at 5:30 against Hamilton Heights. We have one girls relay team that has broken a record every time they've entered the pool, and they have placed first every time they've entered the pool. And we have a diver who has placed first every meet as well.
They are being honored next April.
They are. I already called dibs on it. Called dibs on it. We can fight.
I did want to thank the board. I know this time last year, we were talking a lot about preschool. And we really have a nice plan for preschool. And it's been such a great year with our preschool. And I just feel like we really got some things back on track. And I just want to thank the board for taking the time, because that was a very time-consuming process. But the rewards are far outweigh the time spent. So thank you for helping with that.
I think I saw in the newspaper where a group of students volunteered at the Encore Center and helped out. And I thought that was very positive, and I'm sure they were all very grateful.
Anyone else? I would call out Mrs. Gonzalez and her honors physics class this week, or last week, did a boat race built out of cardboard in the pool. She's planned, I think we've approved and planned a trip to Kings Island to study physics, so we'll see how that goes. But at the end of the day, just wanted to acknowledge Mrs. G for some really creative and, I don't know, immersive type of experiences for physics. So I thought she did a great job and the kids had a blast, so. All right. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for that. We'll move to comments from the community. Do we have anybody for the general session? Laura? All right.
Actually, I answered some of my questions I had about the CCHA piece on the agenda. But I'm still going to take my 3 minutes of opportunity here to just reinforce what I talked about in the work session. Because one of the board's main function is to approve policies. And an integral part of that is to get public input on those policies. And we cannot get public input on those policies if we do not know the policies that you guys are going to vote on. So when I see batch 1, 2, and 3 of these policies, we have nothing to go by to give you input. And I think back to a couple meetings ago, when we went over the survey results, and one of the big glaring things that came out of that as a result was that parents recognized how well we do recognizing sports and students and all of that. But their number one thing per that list was wanting more say about policy, wanting to have more input, wanting to know what those policy changes were. So I guess I'm just going to finish by saying this. I really hope you, take into account what I talked about in the work session and what West Lafayette Community School Corporation is doing, and that we share in doing that. And if you, when you get to the point where you decide this, or not, I'd at least like, at some point when you reach that decision, at least some feedback from one of you, or the board president, or one of my reps, as to either why you don't want to do what they're doing, or hopefully, pray to God, that we do change our practice. So,
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our comments from the community. The next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes from the work session and the regular session, and the 1028 additional appropriation hearing from February 11th. We have approval of claims, the payroll claims from February 14th and 25th. And then we have the accounts payable claims for all of March, so thus far 2025. Approval of the personnel report, which I'll read at the conclusion of this. And then approval to accept donations. We had none this particular month in the packet. So I will move to the personnel report. We have maternity leave requests for Jessica Lyday and Ashley Roberts. From a classified staff perspective, we have the retirement of Corey Fernung. After 21 years of service to Tipton High School, Corey is retiring, and we have accepted that retirement. We have a termination of Jill Fakes, who was a special ed bus aide, the resignation of Chris Swank and Heather Goodnight from classified staff, and we have a transfer of Michelle Height from third shift custodian in the middle school to third shift custodian in the high school. Recommendations, we have Brandon Lake as a full-time substitute teacher for the corporation. Ashley Cunningham as a third shift custodian for the elementary school. Mary Ankrum for physical education assistant and a lifeguard. And then Heather Goodnight for the third shift custodian at the Tipton High School. On the ECA staff side, resignations, we have Kevin McDonough as the girls varsity tennis coach, Jessa McKinney as the assistant cheer coach for the middle school, and also Jessa McKinney for the 6th grade cheer coach in the middle school. Elizabeth Unger, 6th grade cheer coach at the middle school, and Kelsey Mitchell for the 8th grade girls basketball coach, and also the 7th grade volleyball coach of Kelsey Mitchell as well. On the other side of that, the recommendations are Sam Phillips for the girls varsity track coach for the 2024-25 school year. We have Brandon Lake for the boys assistant track coach for the high school. Maddie Ripberger for the girls varsity soccer coach for the high school. Levi Tragesser for the boys varsity soccer coach for the high school. And David Tragesser for the assistant soccer coach for the high school. Eli Bogard for the girls track head coach in the middle school. And Adam Gillum for the girls varsity tennis coach for the high school for the 20 and 25 school year. So I would be looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and the personnel report.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I just wanted to say, I think we did have a couple of donations,
Did we?
but I mean, just think through motorsports. and-
Okay, we did. We had motorsports, bass anglers, athletics through Coca-Cola, and then the Young Originals had some patron donations that go towards their Florida trip. So sorry about that.
No big
Missed
deal.
that. So my bad. It's only my 3rd month, so just lighten up, everybody. No, just kidding. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. Next up is our superintendent's report, Dr. Glaze.
Not a very long superintendent's report, but just wanted to talk about a couple of things that we have happening here.
At school. One thing that's going to happen is we will have a new pattern or a new sequence for our building as far as the entrances that we have labeled. This is mostly for a security purpose, and currently we have letters. We're moving to numbers. This would be essentially if we would have any kind of an emergency, we would be able to let law enforcement or fire know what entrance they would need to come in. So we could say, come in entrance 14, which is now the main entrance for the high school there at the main office. And it just allows us to have a little bit better grasp because it labels every single entrance to the building. Any way you can get into the building now has some kind of a marker on it, so that we can be a lot more specific and it's just really more so for safety versus everything else. So this is the map. This would be the map that we would put out on our webpage if they're looking to come on campus. Hopefully locating the door they need to go to. There are actually two separate maps that have every single number listed and every single door listed on it. And this was kind of big, so we had to do it in two segments. So this is obviously the high school. And then this is obviously the elementary middle. So starting on Thursday, our friends from Hoosier Sign Guy are going to come in and label these new entrances. And so we should be up and ready by Friday with all of our new entrances. And we'll probably send something out to our patrons and let them know that things have changed. And also put the map out. So that's one of the exciting things. It's not real super interesting, but it's definitely something that will make our building and campus safer.
Would you go back to the first page?
Sure.
That one,
This one?
yeah. What about the concession stands and the bus barn and all of that?
We just, because we don't have them labeled as one of the entrances. These are just for it's not necessarily to try to find locations on the campus, like for the outside buildings. It's really more so for the internal campus. But I mean, that's something that we can add if we feel like that's important.
And what is entrance 23? Does that go in by the old
Entrance
shop there
23?
by the cafeteria?
Entrance
31,
20,
32, 31.
23 is actually behind here. They're the garage doors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we probably need to fix that. But there are 4 garage doors, so we have each one of those labeled.
This will be shared out with police and fire.
Yes,
and
yes.
Dave will walk them through and.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Any other questions? Okay, we did have our audit, and I appreciate those of you that were able to come in for that. We're not allowed to disclose anything from the audit. I think that we were sworn to keep it quiet, but I do feel like we had a very good audit and without divulging any facts or anything, so I was really pleased with it. I did want to take this opportunity to thank Brooke, Dawn, Holly, and Emma. My gosh, those ladies were just running around like crazy, answering the auditor's questions. And we had 4 auditors here at one time for several days. So everybody was hopping. And I just really appreciate their hard work. And it's always good to be done with an audit. And so we will share the information once it's finalized and sent to us. But once again, we were really pleased with the results. Just kind of upcoming agenda items, looking at approval for bids for the roofing project. We're obviously going to have property liability, cybersecurity, workers' comp, insurance renewal next month. We will have a report from the Wellness Committee, curricular material updates with Mr. Jaworski. And we will begin the process of updating handbooks, particularly with our new policy citations and various things like that. So it may be more like June versus May. But that's kind of the upcoming agenda items, and that's all I've got.
Good. Next on the agenda is our department reports. Inside your packet was the food service report, the technology report, and the assistant superintendent's report. Didn't know if we had any questions or comments on that. Very good. Up next is the financial report. Brooke's absent this evening, so I will do my best to read this. But we ended up with February with cash balances in the education fund of $1,030,110.34. A portion of the balance is related to curricular material funds transferred in at the end of the year that we did. Our operation fund, but cash balance was $738,733, and our debt service remained at $791,105. And rainy day continues to be at $2,003,833. Our education fund revenue exceeded our expenses by $79,761. So we transferred $75,000 from the ed fund to the op fund, and then the op fund's expenses there, they exceeded revenue by $251,802. So the operations fund, as you all know by now, has very limited ways in which to bring in revenue, and our next tax draw will not arrive until mid to late June, so we'll be keeping a real close eye on that. Any questions on the financials or the revenue reports or anything that was in your packet? All right. Going to old business now, it's a little deja vu all over again, but if you recall, the approval of this resolution that's in your packet, the 1003 waiver, it's necessary to submit to the IDOE to allow us to use 3 days for professional development in the 25-26 school year. We did pass the resolution last month, but it had the wrong Indiana code citation in it. In your packet is the resolution with the correct citation. I just need a motion and a second to approve that again with the correct information.
I move to approve the 1003 waiver, part 2.
I second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the 1003 waiver? All right, all those in favor of approving the 1003 waiver, take 2, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. That is all for old business. New business is we have the approval of the architectural design company called 4021 Architecture. In your packet is a proposal from them to complete a roof schematic and design to assist R.L. Turner with the bid documents we're going to need and the specs for the upcoming roof project at the high school. The scope of 4021 Architecture will be in 3 phases. The first phase is the assessment. Second phase is implementation, and then the third phase is the construction administration, and it was outlined a little more specifically in the proposal. Indiana standards for design and construction require architectural drawings in order to access the required building permits and specifications for bids, and they will assist R.L. Turner in evaluating these bids and making sure the right vendor is selected. So I would be looking for a motion and a second to approve the architectural design company bid in the packet.
I move to approve the architectural design company, 4021.
I'd have a motion and a second. Any questions on the bid packet? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving approving architectural design bid, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye, the motion carries. We have the first reading of our CCHA board policy, the administrative guidelines and forms in batches 1, 2, and 3. In January, we started the transition to CCHA policy from Neola. We're going to review these batches on first reading tonight, and with approval is scheduled for April next month. So nothing to vote on here, but just first reading and continue to read those policies and provide feedback. Last month, the board gave permission to advertise fertilizer and spraying bids in the Tipton Tribune and Kokomo Tribune on February 19th and again on February 26th, 2025. Bids were due to us Friday, February 28th, and we had two vendor bids for $17,967 and $14,807 for each growing season. It's recommended the board approve List Lawn Care again as our vendor for fertilizer and spraying. I'd be looking for a motion and a second to approve Lists and their bid for fertilizer and spraying.
I move to accept the bid from List Lawn Care for our fertilizer and spraying.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions on the bid? All right. All those in favor of approving List Lawn Care, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. During our work session earlier, you heard a proposal from Stephen to replace the iPads with external keyboards in grades 3 through 8 with Chromebooks. This proposal is a cost savings measure meant to create a sustainable one-to-one technology program for Tipton Community Schools. Earlier this year, our high school transitioned to Chromebooks from MacBooks, which marked the first step in a more fiscally responsible approach to our one-to-one computing program. The advantages to Chromebooks at this grade level is use of an actual laptop keyboard, cost and ease of repair, which most of these repairs can now be completed in-house versus sending them out to AppleCare. And the rugged construction of the Chromebook. We're asking for approval of a 4-year lease option to spread out the overall cost of these devices. The proposal and the lease terms are included in your packet. Look for an emotion and a second to approve the Chromebook purchase and lease.
I move to approve the Chromebook purchase and lease.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the leases. Any questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the Chromebook purchase and lease, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Also, during the work session, Stephen explained the current reality we have in regards to the fleet of copy machines, I think it was referred to, and our plan moving forward. So in our packet is a 60-month release proposal from Ricoh, and the agreement will reduce the number of copy machines in the district from 26 down to 14, and the only expense beyond the lease payments will be for copier paper. So I'd like to ask for an approval of the Ricoh copy machine lease.
I move to approve the Ricoh copy machine lease.
I'd have a motion and a second to approve the copy lease. All those in favor, could you signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Next on our agenda is granting the superintendent authorization to sign the alternative and private residential placement contract. We have 2 students in residential placements that qualify for an SEEC grant from IDOE. The SEEC grant provides financial support to the school so the district is not financially burdened with the full cost of that placement. The superintendent needs authorization from us to sign contracts for the SEEC grant funding on behalf of the board. The resolution is in your packet, and it does provide this authorization. Looking for approval to grant the superintendent that authorization.
I move to grant the superintendent authorization to sign alternative and private residential placement contracts.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to grant the authorization. Any questions on that? Then all those in favor of granting the superintendent the authorization to sign the contracts, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Other matters to come before the board, we have the advisory committees. I believe we have the Professional Learning Experiences Committee, is that right? And
The communications committee would be the next one.
Okay.
And, we're gonna do that probably after we get back from spring break.
Great.
Okay, so I'll send out an email to all of you saying, hey, what works? So,
Perfect. All right. Then an upcoming schedule of events, Dr. Glaze talked about earlier, March 12th and 13th, we're going to have this exterior door numbering. March 13th is the end of the third grading period. March 17th, we'll be having an executive session as a board. March 20th is school makeup day. It's a flex day if needed. And March 21st through 30th is the long-awaited spring break. And March 31st being another snow makeup day, a flex day if needed. And our next meeting in these chambers will be April 8th for our April board meeting. That concludes our agenda. Would look for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
thank you all.